Bonsoir, buenas noches, good evening, saubona. In all the places I have lived, saubona is my favorite greeting. It is isiZulu for hello. It is a greeting, but isiZulu is one of the 11 official languages of South Africa, and it literally means, it translates to, I see you. And it is about giving the dignity and the worth of recognizing the humanity of everyone whom you see. So I see you, and tonight is about me thanking you for being the first to see me. I am from Greensboro, North Carolina. I am the product of two very proud, loving parents who taught me to look inward, but to love outward. They told me there was only two things I had to do, right? I had to love the world with reckless abandon, but I also had to be accountable for my place in the world. And part of that meant making space sometimes when I was asking to be part of spaces and institutions that were not even historically or structurally built for my inclusion. But my mother said there was just one thing I had to do if I was lucky enough, if I was blessed enough, if I was privileged enough to find myself in one of those spaces. And that was that I had to turn back and I had to make room for others. That I had to expand the boundaries of inclusions for people who did or did not look like me. And so it is with that spirit that I decided to apply for a Fulbright fellowship to South Africa. I had studied and read some of its history, and I thought it just had such a textured and interesting history. And so I went in 2010 and became a student professor. Imagine, I'm like 20 years old, right? At the University of I was a pretty cool professor, I will say. I didn't mind if they handed in their homework late. And, I was there and I was hearing just these powerful ideas. And in it, you could hear this young country's belief and hope in its own brighter future. And it was there, upon listening to these stories, that I knew I wanted to become a journalist. But there was one catch. I applied to journalism school while in South Africa so that upon completing my Fulbright, I could matriculate here stateside, and I did not get in. Like, one sentence, bye girl, bye. You're not welcome. I cried a lot. And I said, well, you know what? I mean, imagine, like, I'm crestfallen at this point, right? Because I was literally writing to this university, submitting my application, hoping that I could pay them to teach me the things that I needed to do to break into this industry. Look, television, it's like television. I mean, you assume these are for people who are exceptionally rich or powerful or connected, none of which I was. I had never even met a journalist. So when that door closed, I just remembered how sad I felt. I felt like it was the end. I just couldn't enter this thing. But I remembered what my mama said. I had to make space. So I wrote the Fulbright committee. I asked them for $1,000 more in grant money. I sent it back to my dad in Atlanta, and I said, Papi, can you please send me, with this $1,000, just 10 of those $100 Kodak flip cameras. They don't do anything special. He puts them in a box. He sends them to me in Durban, South Africa. I went to the State Department workers who were working on the ground, and I said, what is your area with the most high need? They identified a township for me, which is a low-income community in South Africa. And I went there. I took my box of 10 flip phone cameras, and I said, hey, kids, you're 16. This was the first generation of born-frees in South Africa. So the first generation of people who were born post-apartheid, right? I'm in there 2010, apartheid ends in 1994. And I said, it's not in the cards for me. I'm not privileged enough to have learned how to do this, but I'll teach you what little I do know. So I pass out these cameras, and every week we tackle a new topic. We do the economy one week, we do politics another week, we do race another week. And they're setting up their cameras, they're practicing their interview skills, they're learning how to ask questions and record themselves. And I will never forget one young student, and for the sake of this story and her anonymity, I will call her Pearl. And she said, Morgan, I'm ready to tell my story, but it's going to be hard. And I said, oh, are you sure, Pearl? She said, yes, I'm ready. She turns on the camera in front of her co-students. She describes a story of gender-based violence. And as the camera is still rolling, I paused and I said, Pearl, are you sure we can talk about this afterward? She said, no, because I feel lighter. And there are so many other people in this room who have experienced the same thing and have wondered if they can make it through the night. And I have survived, and if I can survive, they can too, and they should know it. And I knew in that moment I would do this for the rest of my life, that I would give myself and my career in service of Pearl and the countless others like Pearl. I also knew in that time that a journalist was born. Whether or not I had a fancy university to tell me that I was one, I was one. Because of my Fulbright experience, I was learning how to listen, how to craft narratives, how to understand. And so I gathered all of this footage from these students. I drove myself 6 hours to the only Apple store within hundreds of miles of a radius from where I was living in Durban. I taught myself how to edit, and I did what my Mama Kay, told me to do. And sometimes you gotta make space for yourself. And so I came back and I reapplied to journalism school, and I got in with a full merit tuition scholarship. And I became a living, breathing storyteller. And the rest, as they say, is history. Because I realized that at the end of the day, all stories are Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the South African principle that means I am who I am through you. I am, as a human, only existing because of our shared connection and connectivity as humans. And that's what stories are. They are what connect us. They are what define us at their best. They are what inspire us to action. They are the vehicle by which we take our seat at the table. They are the vehicle by which we make space for ourselves and for others. And so I have you and all of the mechanisms in place in this room tonight to thank for being the first ones to see me. Sawubona.